All righty. Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Saturday, December 20th, about 10:05 a.m. So let's get started, see if we have any questions. Hope you had a great week. Uh, so let's see if we have any questions or comments. Anybody? Okay.
We talked about quite a few things last couple of days that we met,
Yeah.
and I would I'm wondering if there was anything that possibly needs to be reiterated or clarified that we spoke of. Is everyone clear on what we talked about? Let me put it that way. I guess so. Um,
Well, I'll just say this. I was just excited. Last week to me was something refreshing because it was new. It was new stuff that we hadn't going into at that level. Like we've talked about libations before, but to open it up the way we did and to look at the value of it and the power of it was I thought was exciting and I had never thought about the elevated and the unelevated and the walking dead. I'd never seen it from that perspective spiritually. And to me it was kind of empowering to us. So
um,
anyway.
did we really get into libations though? That's the question because if we did we talk about the reason water is used in libation?
Well, why don't you start from there? If you
And
don't mind.
go ahead.
I said, if
Someone
you
about to
don't
say
mind,
something? Uh, when we talk about libations, um, for those who are new or may be new, I'm sorry, or listen to this later on, when we talk about libations, libation is an act of remembrance. And if I've said this before, in the last few days, let me know, please. It's the period of remembrance and spiritual alignment. It keeps us in rhythm with the universe, or it puts us there. And when I say remembrance, it's because you cannot pour libations without focusing on what you're doing. Meaning that when you make a decision to pour libations, then there are thoughts that come back to you. The reason that you're doing it. Um, one of the reasons is that libations acknowledges the presence of the ancestors in our midst, um, and it also restores harmony and balance. And the harmony and balance that it restores is not only the harmony within, but it also restores the harmony between us and the ancestors. It also restores harmony between us and the cosmic mother itself. It is a method of opening up the portal to your heart. And what I am saying in saying that is it it says to the universe and the ancestors that I am available to you. I am open to you. Um, it says to the universe that my deepest desire is to be in rhythm with you at all times. And that constant desire to be in rhythm with the universe and acknowledge the presence of ancestors changes our whole mindset, and it alters our mindset and our focus. It removes our focus from the material world and opens us up to the spiritual world itself. And it also reminds us that it is there's something that's far greater than the things that we see in this world, the things that we've accumulated, and far greater than our experiences and interactions with this world as well. Um, when we enter this sense of libation, we do it with sincerity, and we do it spirit with understanding that it's a spiritual thing, even though we're using a physical thing called water. We understand that is more than this physical water that we are using, or whatever liquid we use. Also, it must be done with respect. And when we are doing that, our minds should not be thinking about floating around, or we should not be distracted. Where our minds are thinking about what we're going to do next or tomorrow, what happened to us yesterday. Those kinds of things are to be foreign uh, to um, to us while we are in this the process of pouring libation. Um, this when we pour libations, we hold to the reality that this is far more um, than a tradition. Traditions can be, and most of the times are, entered into without any thought. It's just pretty much rote memory that we are dealing with. But libations is different than that. You never get to a place where you're so comfortable with it until you are able to pour libations without or giving any thought to what you're doing, or the power that's inherent in it, as well as the desire to do it. Um, Libations also, as I said, um, makes us more aware of the presence of our ancestors, and in doing so, this is a recognition of our ancestors as well. And that recognition is that uh, the ancestors are our guardians. They guard our pathways. They guard our thoughts. They guard our minds. And um, when we are there any questions before I talk about something? Go further in this. So when I talk about the point of libations, the use. Ron, did you have a question or comment?
No, sir. Bye.
Okay. Well, point of libations. Um, I mentioned water, and one of the reasons I mention water is because it's so readily available. And of course, there is wine that you can pour out for libations. However, the primary is water. And every creation story, regardless of how many different ways it has been copied, or how many different ways um, people have taught it, it always involves water. It always involves water, regardless of where the story is being told. And the reason it involves water is because water is is a has a common effect. Water calmed the rowdiness of creation itself. Creation was brought to a state of order by the element of water. And water truly is more than just an element. It is actually a representation of the divine spirit in the earth. It is a physical manifestation of the divine spirit in the earth. As a matter of fact, it is the spiritual essence of being in the earth. The breath that we breathe, or the air that we breathe, it is breath, it is spirit. All of those are the same. And we are spirit. And through every vessel, every cell of our body, breath flows. And water does also. We are breath. However, when we look at the physical aspects of our being, we are more water than we are any other element in this earth. Water is a method also of purification. It purifies itself, and it has the characteristics that purifies us as well. Water is actually a living spirit because water has memory. And there is a Japanese scientist I think most of us are familiar with who looked at crystals, water under a microscope. And if you were angry, the molecules took on a frightening or a horrific shape. If you were happy or spoke words of balance, love, and kindness, the shape of the crystals under the microscope were they were beautiful. They were like snowflakes and different shapes that were pleasing to the eye and soothing to the soul. So when we're talking about water, it determines how we respond to the outside world. When we are upset, one of the major reasons that we experience it in a physical way in our bodies is because of that energy that's flowing through the water that we are made of, and we feel that, we experience that. If we are or are having let's say we're celebrating, we're in this festive spirit, that experience is also the experience of that rather also comes because of the presence of the water, and that's why we are able to feel it. The Even when you are intimate, or you are close to being intimate, whatever stage of intimacy, whether it's an intimacy between a family or intimacy between someone who is your intimate partner, all intimacy is experienced through the water that makes up our body. So it is a conduit through which energy flows. It also not only enhances or helps us to recognize our emotional state at that moment, it also lightens our burdens. When you are depressed or you are angry, the thing that you are experiencing in your body is turbulent water. And the turbulence of that water either causes you to withdraw from everything and everyone, or it pushes you to be in contact with someone external to you physically. so that you can be brought to a state of calmness. It, it helps to reinstate a relationships between us. For example, if you are upset with someone in your household or at work or wherever, if you make a decision that you're going to be who you were created to be, and when you reach out, what you are reaching out to is to that essence of that person, and in doing so, you connect at that place of the flow of water, and you can sense whether or not they are open to you. When you are in someone's presence and you sense that they are not open to you, what you are experiencing is the results of the turbulence of the water within them. And if you are also, your water is also turbulent, your emotions are also turbulent, then what results from that is aggressive words or aggressive movements. And the more aggressive we become, the more turbulent the waters are within us. And when someone says, just be still, take deep breath, what you're actually doing, the breath is calming the waters within, and it brings it to a state where you are not flat, but your emotions change, especially if you know who you are. Your emotions shift almost immediately. The waters also connects us, or reestablish our link between those who came before us. When we talk about pouring out libations in the Bermuda Triangle, when we talk about the residual energy that's in the waters where our ancestors were thrown overboard, or where they were brutalized, or where they were tortured. All of these things are carried in water. We are the ones who determine whether water is going to be a force of divinity, or whether it's going to be a force of destruction. The water is a type of unicity between us and our ancestors, but also more importantly, or just as important, I should say, is between us and between us in a physical sense, each other. So using water for libations, and with the understanding that is not just hydrogen and oxygen, is much more than that. When we embrace that, and we pour out libations with that understanding, then there is a sense of oneness or unicity between us and the ancestors who are present with us. And in addition to that, when we understand, I'm sorry, not in addition to that. However, it is not an expectation for you to remember all that's being said about what water is, because it's in you. And by virtue of talking about it, we're actually reminding you of the power and the divinity of water. And pouring out libations is a recognition of that divinity and a desire to bring calmness to a turbulent time in our lives or in the universe. And that is why libation is more than a tradition. It is actually an opportunity to bring balance into our lives and into the earth itself. And I want to go a step further. However, I want to see if there are any questions or comments before I do that.
Grand Rising, everyone. Pastor, as you mentioned in reference to libation and the eternal waters, I just wanted to say that when we look at the various creation stories, we talked about the Kabbalonian essence, of the eternal waters of the Nun, and where our ancestors are is in that place, where we can appreciate the spirit of us being able to believe and belong and to remember the power, the essence of the waters. So I just wanted to mention, as you speak about the eternal waters of not just the regular water, but the plasma, all of the things that was in the universe, which is part of that representation, of the Nun, which is part of that representation of the Pangea, but it's all in those waters. And so I just wanted to share those thoughts this morning as you were speaking about the waters, the eternal waters. I'm done.
Thank you. In talking about, George said eternal waters, and that's important for us to know, to remember, to hold on to, because in order for something to be eternal, it does not have a beginning, nor does it have an end. It just is. And when we talk about the waters, they have always been, and they always shall be. And that is the reason that it is impossible to have life in this environment that we call Earth if water does not exist, because it is the source of physical life, or physical manifestation rather, of life in this earth. This is recognized by the people who call all of our spiritual acumens barbaric, or call them, said that they were, they call them witchcraft or demonic. And the reason that has been done and still being done is because the ones who are at the higher echelons of control in this world know the effect and the power of libations. They understand very clearly the unicity between the children of Akabalon and their ancestors when it comes to the pouring of libations. And that is why the battle has been fought to disconnect us from our belief systems about our spiritual essence. Before there was slavery, on the European slavery on the continent of Akabalon, there were missionaries. And the missionaries responsibility was to disconnect us from who we are. And that made it much easier to enslave us. Not easy, but easier. And when you give thought to that, the largest Christian continent on earth is Africa, Kabbalah. What am I saying to you? There are more Christians on that continent than there are anywhere else. And yet, that continent is still poor. So if Christianity, if Islam were beneficial to humanity, then why is it that the people who pray 3 times a day, or the people who pray when they get up in the morning, go to church all week, are the poorest people on earth? Give thought to this. Anywhere you go on earth where Christianity or Islam is dominant, people who look like us are poor, are suffering, are the ones who no one really cares about. So why is it that we fight to hold on to something that has proven to be destructive to us? And as I say to some people, you've tried this all your life, and all the people before you that you know of have done the same thing, and we have ended up in the same place. So even if you don't want to believe it, try it. See what happens. And when you sincerely make an effort to understand it, you begin to see immediately that there is a change in your demeanor. There is a shift in the way you think. You may fight it, you may deny it, but it's there. The only people on earth who benefit from Christianity, from Islam, are Europeans. And the reason they benefit from it is because it has no spiritual connotations to them. It's simply a weapon of their warfare that brings people to submission. They understand libations. They understand the connection or the unicity of the children of Kabbalah and the ancestors. They understand all of that. If they did not understand that, then why is it that those who are at the higher echelons of Christianity, especially, worship us behind closed doors? Worship is not what Christianity taught you. Worship is a submission for the purpose of positive guidance. And that submission for the purpose of positive guidance has been colored by racism. So it's different than what it was in the beginning. When I say they are submissive to us and desirous of our energy behind closed doors, if you go to the Vatican and you look at the sanctuaries where prayer is offered, what you see is a picture of a Black Madonna and her child. They know that it is Isis and Haru. They told us it's Mary and Jesus. If Mary and Jesus are supposed to be European in nature, in their physical appearance rather, why is it that when the Pope goes in, it is not a white Jesus or a white Mary above the altar? Why? Because they understand the femininity that brought everything into existence. They understand that from the womb of femininity came everything, and they also know that Isis is not one God that we worship, and Osiris is another god, and Haru is another god. They understand, they know the power of that. They know what they are doing, and they have usurped that for their ungodly purposes. And it's funny to me that the hardest people on earth to embrace who they are and look at what's taking place in religious settings around us. We are the most difficult people on earth to get to a place where we love ourselves and where we see what's going on behind the scenes. One of the most detrimental things, what detrimental group of people to us have been the black elite, or those who look like us who think that they are elite because of what they have or the circles that they travel in. Because their deep desire to be accepted by those who are oppressors outweighs their desires to know themselves. Yet, those who know are the very ones who have usurped the energy or the power that is inherent with us. And that portrait of the Black Madonna and Child are symbolic. And they are symbolic of, how can I put it? The realism or the existence of a cosmic mother who is African. And you say, well, I don't know any evangelical churches do. Nobody in power or in those positions where power did exist cares about what the evangelicals believe as long as they stay racist. That's it. The birth of Protestantism came from Catholicism. So no matter how you try to separate yourself from it, that's the womb that you came out of. And you are still tied to the umbilical cord of Catholicism. There is no escaping it. And those who are in charge, or those who are in authority in Catholicism, are the ones who are submissive to the presence, the belief, the understanding, the knowledge of femininity being the origin of everything. We have been fed a lie about God being masculine. Yet, those who have taught us that know better than that. We are the ones who don't know any better. And seemingly, we are the ones who don't want to know any better. So we have to take into account, I do believe, that we've been duped, but we don't have to walk through this earth with blinders on. We don't have to be duped any longer. Do your own research. You search for everything else. Search for an understanding of self. Ask yourself, why was it necessary to separate us from our spiritual / religion, whatever you want to call it, beliefs? Why was that so necessary? Why was it necessary to talk about, or to teach us rather, that our beliefs are demonic, when we have held to our beliefs for hundreds of thousands of years? Why is it so necessary? Why was that, or is that, the first thing that is done to us through Islam or through Christianity? Now, when it comes to Judaism, it's totally different. They don't care one way or the other. And you can see that there are no Jews trying to convert nobody to anything, especially who does not have the right kind of last name, and especially those who don't look like us. Like, if your name is not a Rothschild or your name is not a Cohen, they don't care. It's just that simple. But Christianity and Islam are power source, are power religions that seeks to dominate and control the earth. And there really is no distinction between their desires and their actions when it comes to humanity. There's no moral common ground. Morality is whatever they say it is. And let me give you an example of that. I'm going to ask you a question. And if you would, I'd appreciate it to you respond to it, yes or no. Was Obama black? That's not rhetorical.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't
Yes.
black.
Was Obama black?
Sounds like
No,
a
he
trick
wasn't
question.
black.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, George, you say he wasn't. What was it?
He was a person who aided humanity, and what I mean by that is, when Obama got in office, some of us expected Obama only to look out for African Americans, and in looking out for us, he had to look out for humanity. So no, I wouldn't call him black. I will say on his watch, I didn't necessarily agree with how he handled the African American male who wanted to vote for Trump, nor did I agree with him upping the ante on someone who defected to Cuba. I think her name was Shakur. Those only two faults I find with him. Yet, as far as his health care, it aided humanity. That's my answer.
Now, I'm not talking about his policies. I'm talking about how he is seen in this society.
Oh, he ain't seen as black. No.
He's
no.
not seen as black in this society.
No.
So what is he seen as?
in this society,
He seemed
strictly America, right?
Yeah, in America, what is he seen as?
everything but black.
Now, you are talking now because you want to be the antagonist, because you know, just as well as I do, that Obama is seen as a black man and considered to be the first black president. Every one of us know that. In America, that's how it's seen. And there is no dispute in that. When you look at his policies, that's a whole different ballgame. I'm not talking about policy. I'm talking about him. And I raised that for a reason. The only reason that we say Obama is black is because the oppressor told us that he black. His mama was European. His daddy was African. So why can't he be white? Why can't he be white in America? Why does he have to be black? And that's not rhetorical.
Pastor, is it because the color of his skin?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Pastor?
The reason I say that is because there are those who pass for white. Myra?
I was going to also add in the fact that he's married to a black woman from
Has,
South Carolina, and his children are children of color.
has nothing to do with it. Obama is seen as being black because he has a black blood. One drop of blood and you black. Whatever womb you come out of, meaning that if you come from a black womb and there is a white seed, you black. If you come from a white womb and there's a black seed, you white. So what am I saying to you? We have bought into a stigmatism that has served Europeans very well. How come it's important to them and has become normal to us? We've normalized it. How come it's so important to make that distinction? Because as long as we look at a child as being black simply because one of the parents is black and the other is a European, we have bought into a system of white supremacy. That white is supreme and we are the other. We are inferior. That distinction was brought into existence for the express purpose of creating division and by subliminally causing people in America especially to embrace that lie about race. So when we really look at that, the distinction between a child of a Cabelon and a child of Europe is not the color of their skin. It is whether or not they are melanated. Can you see that? If you can't, please ask a question, because Obama definitely is melanated. W.B. Du Bois was melanated.
I have a question.
I'm
Like,
confused.
yeah, go ahead, Audrey. I yield to you.
No, go ahead, Regina.
So by the political standard, the white supremacy standard, having black blood makes you black,
Yes.
and so therefore being melanated. What are you saying by being melanated?
Melanated meaning that you have black melanin. There's black melanin, there's brown melanin, there's yellow melanin, there's red melanin. Africans have black melanin and brown melanin. And or brown melanin. That's what I'm saying.
And I guess what I'm asking you to go further into is how in previous sessions we've discussed the mindset versus the melanin.
No, ma'am. Mindset and melanin go together. The Cabelonian mindset is what it is because of the presence of melanin.
So we're also saying that, for example, what you said earlier, those who are the black elite, they're still black. You're saying they're still black. They have black melanin, even though their mindset is not necessarily
Right.
rooted
Mm-hmm.
in the. So I need you to go there. I need you
Go there.
to
I don't mind.
yeah.
I don't mind.
Yes, please.
We have talked about this quite frequently, and Audrey, I haven't forgotten you. We've talked about this quite frequently, that the mindset of the European has become the mindset of melanated people because we were indoctrinated to embrace that. And until we understand that European mindset is not our nature, we will acquiesce to the standards that are set by Europeans with a deep-seated desire to be like them in terms of their mindset. What I'm talking about in this instance is a false narrative that we were indoctrinated into and forced to accept. You are contaminated if you have black blood. A white woman was shunned if she had relationship with a black man, and but a white man was not shunned if he raped a white woman or had sex with a white woman. And I'm talking about the antebellum period. So why is it that Obama cannot simply just be a person? Why does he have to have a race attached to him, like you black because you got white blood, because you got black blood in you, regardless of what your skin color is? Race, the difference between Europeans and Africans is not the color of your skin as much as it is your mindset. If you think like a European, you act like a European. You have no problem with what ICE is doing. You think it's good for the country. I had this discussion yesterday with a guy, and he was talking about he agreed with what Trump is doing with ICE, but nothing else does he agree with. And I'm like, why would you agree with that? Why? So what I'm saying is that's a European mindset that caused him to express what he did. And when I talked to him about how that it is virtually impossible for anyone who is poor to come into this country from a non-European country because they don't have the money to come through the system to apply for the application, to pay the immigration lawyer, to have a sponsor, all of these things, they don't have. And when we talked about it that way, then he was able to see more clearly what the reason that I was saying that he was wrong and what he was thinking. I didn't just say you're wrong. I said, look at it this way. And that's when I talked to him about it. However, now I'm talking about something that's been with us for too long. Some white men got together during slavery and said, if you got black blood, then you black. I don't care how minute it is. That was a guy who was a white dude who was going to set up a town in, I think it was Idaho, and only white people. And one black man challenged him to do a DNA test. And when that man did a DNA test, he had African blood in him. And that was the end of his town. So what I'm saying is, why do we have to separate people based on what womb they came out of? Does that, am I making sense? Why is it that we have to separate people based on the womb? Why is it that Obama can't be white? Because he came out of a white womb. Why does he have to be designated in a certain racial structure that is not real? A social construct of race. Why?
Well, that's the ideal that we would all be judged on who we are versus race, but that's not our society.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that is not our society. But I'm saying, why is it that we cannot deal with it, this designation, just like we deal with anything else? Is that our desire for us to be judged that way? Is that our desire for us to be judged? Is it our desire to be judged based on that aspect of our society?
Absolutely not.
Well,
It is our desire to be judged based on our mindset and how that manifests into behaviors, right?
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Audrey, I agree with you. That is the dictate of our society, but it doesn't have to be. Because it is not based upon humanity or humanness. It's based upon inferiority versus superiority. That's what that's based upon.
But doesn't all of that come back to capitalism?
Every bit of it.
Control people and manipulate them?
Come back to Christianity too.
well, I mean, I can see that, but as you said, there's people from Alkebulan have black melanin, they have brown melanin. They also have yellow melanin and red melanin.
All melanin.
Look at the Khoisan. They're very fair-skinned people, even though they live in the desert. And you know, they're one of their DNA goes back over millions of years.
Yes.
You know, so
That's real. Because I mean, let's face it.
so, but basically, we're all African.
Yes.
They don't want to admit it.
Yes, we are all African because everybody came from the African genome. The mitochondrial DNA of the African woman has every genetic makeup on Earth. So why do we have to be designated that way? Simply because of inferiority versus superiority. And I am saying when we talk about the human family, when we talk about humanity, we are talking about the people who came into existence, not just the children of Akebalon, but all of those who the children of Akebalon brought into existence. So we that designation of being white simply because you have being black rather, simply because you have white, black blood in you. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Everybody has African blood. It's the mindset. And our mindset in regards to that needs to shift, I do believe, so that we don't use this social construct to make decisions about who people are. We have been taught that right now there are people who look like us who are afraid of people who look like us, because we have been told that if you're young and have cornrows in your hair, or your hair is not cut, or however your hair you carry yourself determines your mental state. That's not true. But we bought into that. And we bought into that. The one who indoctrinated us the most about that was Ronald Reagan. During the period of slavery, it was all white men who were in power. Ronald Reagan and the drug and the Just Say No drug program was designed to present to the world people who look like us as being violent, as being lazy, as being so lazy. All we want to do is sell drugs to make it, making babies and walking away from them when you were putting us in jail at 15, that kind of thing. We have to, just like we have to move beyond what Christianity has done to us, we have to also move beyond what society has done to us and the way we think. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, that makes sense.
So I don't want to separate people based on what your European and African mindsets. That's the differentiation. It's the mindset, but the society carries it further than the mindset. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Say that again. Society carries it further
The
than the
mindset. The society says is based on blood. I'm a European. No, you're an African who live in Europe. Your mindset is what makes you different.
Okay. Well, I think it's all wrapped up too with Christianity,
Yes.
because you know, doctrine of discovery and all of that.
Yes.
But I think for me, I think I've just, after all the things we've talked about, I mean, I'm really embracing being African.
I am too.
I mean, I know that not a lot of people do. But we also know we've always been ambiguous about being American
Yes.
because of all the societal and the racial stuff. So it's kind of nice to be able to embrace who you really are. And I think part of the African mindset in the US is in the beginning, you know, if they're gonna, you know, we've tried everything to be in their mindset, and they burned it all down. So then the other thing was to embrace whatever mindset they were putting on us. Because if that's what you want me to be, that's what I'll be. It seems like that's kind of what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
But now that we're learning the truth of all of this, and we're putting lots of that, the real truth, into the macro, I think people are now really trying to embrace who they really are.
And The African has to embrace who it is, or the children of Akebalon, the original in this earth, the gods in this earth, has to embrace who they are. If they don't, nothing changes in the earth, because everything begins with the beginning, and we are the beginning. Does that make
I
sense?
think that's happening.
Oh, I do believe it's happening. If I didn't, honestly, truly, if I didn't believe it was happening, we definitely wouldn't be doing what we are doing, because it would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
So yes, I truly believe that with everything in me. Yeah.
You can
And
see
there's
that
another
from
truth
some
that
of,
we have to face also, I do believe, Ron.
no, I was just gonna say you can see that the evolution of it all through some of the communications through social media.
Yes. The amount of information now that's just popping up on timelines. But there's another truth that we got to come face to face with. I do believe. And that is the reality that the Civil War never ended. We are in the middle of a civil war right now. It's being fought differently than what it was then. Because every time anyone says it's the red states against the blue states, that's civil war. And the leadership in the blue states have the mentality of an abolitionist. And what I'm saying about that is this: the abolitionist believes that you should not be enslaved, but it doesn't believe that you are on par with it. It doesn't believe that you are human. It says that you are less than. That abolitionist mentality. Look at what happened to Jasmine Crockett. When Jasmine Crockett announced that she was going to run for Senate in Texas, the first people who came out against her were Democrats, white male Democrats. And they accused her of being complicit in what Israel was doing in Gaza, when what the record that they were pointing to was a lie. But they were the first ones to come out to lambaste her. The abolitionists, the white male liberals. Civil war is an ongoing thing, and that too must end. But the Civil War doesn't end until we become so astute in the essence of who we are, until we don't dehumanize the seed of the womb of the African by saying the child is contaminated based upon what blood it has, or what seed or what womb it came from. We have to change the way we think about that and see it for what it really is. And what it really is the children of Akebalon are the beginning of all of humanity, of everything in this earth. And when we see it from that perspective, then we find it much more difficult to dehumanize anyone. They end up dehumanizing themselves by virtue of their mindset. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense.
Well, I feel a little like you're preaching to the choir, but I understand what you're saying and you want to put it into the macro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The objective is to put it in the, everything we do is to put it in the macro.
Okay.
Everything we do. There are so many seemingly benign things that has a major impact on how we function in this society. I'm not so much concerned about how it impacts Europe, because whatever impacts America impacts the world. That's just the way it is. If America sneezes, the rest of the world get pneumonia. And so when we look at the seemingly benign nuances of this society, it is there where we find the things that have a major impact, more so than some of the things that are evident to us. The things that we say that we have not given thought to what we are actually saying, because we are so accustomed to saying them. And it seems right. It seems true, but that doesn't make it right. Neither does it make it true. And so, anyway, the whole point of bringing this up about why is it that Obama has to be black is to get to the place, rather, where we see with a greater clarity not only the origin of everyone and everything, but the necessity in us understanding that all blood came from the same place that all humans came from. All blood came from the African, therefore, all blood is the same. The difference is the mindset. Obama has a European mindset, even though he's called or deemed to be black. He has a European mindset. And that is evident. If he had not had a European mindset, he never would have been president. He was not scolded for the policies as much as he was scolded for the color. The Tea Party came into existence long before there was any thoughts about Obamacare. It was simply, this black-skinned person is the president of our country. The people who run the world knew that he had their same mindset as they have. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been president. And that is the reason. Policy and principle has remained the same. Redline and existed through Republicans and Democrats. The anti-voting existed between Republicans and Democrats. The way the bill was written for voters' rights was written by Democrats and Republicans, and it had sunset clauses in it, so they could totally obliterate it. And that's what has happened. The whole concept of this society, and when I say society, I'm talking about America, is division. There is a white paper well, damn. Hello? Am I back?
You're still here. We can see you and hear you.
Oh, okay. My screen went down.
Oh,
Yeah. Only
I
thing
thought
I
you were
saw,
looking for the white paper.
one thing I saw, that's what I saw too, white paper. Went to my screensaver. Anyway, that Brzezinski wrote for Jimmy Carter spells out exactly what I'm talking about that we have to deal with. I'm trying to, let me see. I got it someplace. I want the title of it so I can share it with you. Give me 1 second and I will share it with you and you can look at it, read it for yourself and see what I'm talking about. It's called National Security Council Memorandum 46, number 46. National Security Memorandum number 46. And it was written by Brzezinski at the behest of Jimmy Carter. And it will show you exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about the divisive nature of the society and how it was done and is being done on purpose. And it gets into quite a bit of understanding about why the community is the way it is. And if you read it, and as you read it, you think about this society, you will see the blueprint for what we are dealing with. Now, are there any questions before I say I'm done? Because I got one more thing I want to say before then.
Astrid, I do want to ask a question, but it's about the libation, but I can wait until you finish what you wanted to say.
Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, the libation question is, let's say if I said a libation prayer and I open my door, but I don't have grass, I just have concrete, and I poured out water, is that still to consider libation to the ancestors? Like going that way is
It has to be on dirt.
Hmm?
It got to be on dirt.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has to be dirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions about that? Libations reminds us also of our unicity with the earth. And what I'm talking about is our relationship with nature. You've heard George talk about our first teacher's nature. We learn from nature how to survive in the earth. So that's why it has to be dirt.
And Pastor, if you can share with Angela as well, the dirt can be the dirt of a potted plant that you have inside of your home.
Right. Thank you for adding that.
Thank you too.
Yeah, as long as it's dirt. Any other questions about that? The last thing I want to say is this. When I said earlier that until we embrace the reality, not only of who we are, but also our offspring, and we understand that it came from the womb of a Babylonian mother. And nothing changes until we embrace that. We look at the system that we live in, especially the capitalist system. The capitalist system came into existence during slavery. And in order for humanity to live in a meaningful way in the earth as it was from the beginning, it is for that system to be destroyed uprooted along with all those other things that have kept all of us in bondage. I submit to you that based upon what capitalism is, and based upon who owns America, based upon the system of economics worldwide, there will be no economic balance in the earth unless it comes from a cable line, period. What I am saying is this, and I'm not really going in depth in it to deal with the nuances. I'm not going to do that. And I have a reason for not doing that. What I'm saying to you is this. The economy of the world is based on America. Article 1 of the Constitution says that. I think it's Article 1, Section 1, I believe it is. Maybe that. I don't know. But anyway, it says that the treasure of the United States of America is to coin all currency and value and assign a value to it. And I'm saying that there is no value to what we call money, because money is gold and silver, always have been, always will be. And that is the reason that the British called theirs the British sterling, because it was based on silver. And I'm saying to you that without colonialism, without imperialism, there would be no standard for the valuation of money. And the reason that the valuation of money is what it is because the Europeans control all the precious minerals in the world. And that's how that valuation came into being. And until Africa is free from the yoke of colonialism, free from the yoke of imperialism, there will be no balance of currency in the earth for the purpose of buying and trading or whatever, as it was from the beginning. So there is a twofold journey, for lack of a better word. I know it's a very poor term for what I'm saying. It is up to us to bring a depth of spiritual awareness to this earth that the earth has never experienced previously. And it is up to us to bring such a powerful spiritual awareness and love and kindness into this earth until it brings into existence an economic system that benefits all of humanity. And the only place where that can possibly have its genesis is in a place where precious minerals are abundant. And there is no place on earth where there are more minerals than it is in a cable line. So those two things we must recognize, that when capitalism is no longer there, there is a system that existed before capitalism. And that system is predicated on precious metals, and gold is at the top. So when we put stuff in the macro, when we put principles in the macro, when we put these concepts in the macro, they are for the purpose of experiencing a convergence of energy forces that travel, that exist for different purposes, yet at the same time, it exists for the same purpose. Bringing the spiritual awareness and bringing the system to sustain humanity in the earth together in one spiritual place is not the foundation of change. It is the results of change in a positive way. And our goal is not just to free humanity from the bondage, but also to have a system that sustains humanity in a way that is expressive of loving kindness without regard to anything else. Because without that, nothing changes. Any questions about that, or is that clear with you? I'm done.
That's a good place to stop.
I'm sorry. I have a question. No, I'm not sorry. I do have a
Thank you.
question.
Of course.
With everything that you said, particularly about minerals and the richness of minerals in Alkebulan, and what we know about Europeans' desire, the European mindset, the desire for whatever else belongs to somebody else, go in and take it at will because of greed, whatever, power, control. We understand this. And so with the countries in what used to be Alkebulan, what used to be called Alkebulan, Africa, now exerting their sovereignty, which means that they already understood that they were colonized, and they are trying to shirk that off and become their own sovereign nations, and some of which have accomplished that. What do we need to put in the macro to protect those countries so that they continue on this path of becoming even more sovereign countries who own their own resources, who provide for their own people, who are not held hostage by loans, et cetera, from capitalist countries to rape them of their minerals and enslave their people in another way, meaning to dig for all of that stuff and it be exported out of their country and sold back to them. What do we need to put in the macro to enhance that, to support them, if you will? Because there are countries, this country probably as well, who are trying to subvert those efforts any way they can. i.e., look at what's happening in Venezuela. Look what's happening in countries where people are saying, this is our country. You're not welcome here unless you come to talk to us on an equal footing with any other country, or to deal with us on an equal footing, meaning our minerals are just as the value of our minerals. We receive that value from you just as you would pay any other country, not at a discounted rate. How do we support that? How do we help to protect them and to prevent other countries from continuing to come in and try to subvert that effort?
Thank you for the question. Every time we gather and talk about or bring an understanding to what is, with the express purpose of bringing balance to the earth, that itself protects those countries who are moving toward and embracing their own sovereignty. So the simple efforts that we put forth, no matter what we're talking about, the purpose of it is to bring balance, harmony. And we can't have balance, we can't have harmony without that sovereignty being intact. So whatever we do, we're doing it anyway. That's all a part of what we do, without even being really aware of it. The question, I think also, Barb, is this: why is that there's such a push to keep those countries who are fighting for their sovereignty right now from joining forces and creating a new currency that is backed by or undergirded by the minerals beneath their feet? The reason is the dollar is the most powerful currency in the earth. And the dollar, the power of it, is just as hollow as the promises of equality and freedom. The thing that backs the dollar are guns, weapons of mass destruction, and Christianity and Islam. When a currency different than the dollar is birthed, the dollar will not be worth the paper that is printed on, because it has no value. Oh my God, not district banks. There are 12 central banks in the world. And the only reason they have value is because of colonization and imperialism. To remove the imperialists, the colonists, from its control in any state on the continent of a cable line weakens, if not obliterates, the wealth of Europe. And that is why Europe fights so hard to maintain their control And that is why America is fighting so hard to get into Venezuela, because Venezuela has the largest oil reserve on earth. And the dollar, all petrol, all oil is traded in dollars. Can you imagine what would happen if all trade was conducted in a currency that's not backed by oil, not backed by guns, but backed by gold and silver, uranium, cadmium, all of the minerals? Can you imagine how quickly there would be a devaluation of the euro, devaluation of the British pound, devaluation of the, I think, Chinese yen or whatever it is, Japanese yen, the American dollar, all those would lose value overnight. So the question that you raised gave us opportunity to put into the macro an understanding that we wouldn't have talked about, more than likely, not today anyway, and give us a deeper understanding, a clearer understanding of how interconnected the systems of the currents of this earth are, and how one of the central banks, or the central bank in this country, is the Federal Reserve, which is not owned by the government. Quite the contrary. It would not be worth 2 cents if tonight that currency was brought into existence. And that is one of the reasons, one of the main things that the emerging countries who are seeking sovereignty, one of the main things they're focused on is a currency of their own. And that puts all of them in danger. Questions, comments?
Thank you for the reminder of putting things in the macro. And your last comment, your last sentence explains why I believe this is so important from a world perspective, because that's what's happening. Countries are deciding. They've waken up. We've said that we want people awake. Well, they're awake now.
Yes.
So it is up to us to guard that wokeness, if you will, so that they continue on the path. Because you're right. Like Massa Musa, those countries have so much wealth that all the European countries and the United States and colonized and imperialistic countries see are the dollar signs. And they understand the wealth that these folk are walking on or are living in.
Yes.
And so they're going to try to totally get rid of them. So we've got to protect them. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're quite well. Quite frankly, the last count, there were 25 coup attempts in Burkina Faso. And as we speak, there is a battle going on in Benin, is it Benin? For the control of that country, to take it from the hands of those who are controlled by colonizers. And Nigeria is a major player, or is it Togo? It's either Benin or Togo, but Nigeria is a major player in that battle right now. and Nigeria is not on the side of progress for the African, or for the children of Akabelan. And Rwanda has a female president, and she had to check the president of Nigeria before, in the presence of the nations in Africa, and she's been lauded by the young people who are determined that they will not go back to sleep ever. Neither will they allow leadership to sleep. I'm done. Ron, unless there are questions or comments.
I just want to say thank you for that question, Barb. That kind of wrapped everything up. Thank you. Great discussion. Let's pause for the day and we'll resume tomorrow, 11 a.m. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your
That's good.
See you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, family.
Bye.